All right, so get this. We're diving into AI-designed proteins today. Specifically, Google DeepMind's AlphaProteo. You sent this article in, and let me tell you, it's next-level stuff.
Yeah, it's like we're talking about AI creating the foundation of life itself. Proteins. It's wild. It's like giving an AI a molecular construction set and watching it build.
Right, it's like those sci-fi movies where they 3D print organs. This feels like a step toward that, you know? But before we get ahead of ourselves, why is designing a protein from scratch such a big deal?
So imagine proteins like these tiny, intricate machines. They drive nearly every biological process in our bodies.
Yeah.
Digestion, fighting viruses, even thinking, all thanks to proteins interacting in these really precise ways. Designing new proteins means potentially controlling those processes. And we could be looking at a level of precision we've never seen before.
Yeah, okay. So kind of a big deal then. Now, this AlphaProteo AI, how is it actually pulling this off? I got to be honest. I tried deciphering the technical report, but I'm glad you're here to break it down for us.
I hear you. The science can get pretty complex, yeah.
Hmm.
But fundamentally, AlphaProteo is all about pattern recognition on just a massive scale. It was trained on this huge database called the Protein Data Bank. It's this library, right, of existing protein structures.
Yeah.
And get this, they threw in millions more structures predicted by AlphaFold.
So it basically got a crash course in, like, what already works in nature?
Exactly. And through all that, it learned the rules of how proteins fold, and crucially, how they bind to other molecules. So when researchers give AlphaProteo a target, let's say, a protein involved in a disease, the AI can design a new protein that fits it perfectly, like a key in a lock.
Okay, that analogy makes it crystal clear. Speaking of clicking, they tested this on 8 different target proteins, and it actually worked. Like, a good chunk of the time, seriously.
You read that right. That's what's so groundbreaking. We're not talking theory here. They actually created these proteins in the lab and tested them. And the success rate, astonishingly high.
Okay, give me the specifics. I'm all about the details.
They went after 2 viral proteins and 6 human proteins, all linked to various diseases. For 7 out of those 8 targets, AlphaProteo designed proteins that successfully bound to their targets.
Hold on, so one of them didn't work? What happened there? Did AlphaProteo hit a wall?
Well, you know, even brilliant AI has its limits. The one that stumped AlphaProteo was TNF-way, tumor necrosis factor alpha.
Formal name drop. I like it. But back to TNF, sounds like a real troublemaker.
It can be, yeah. It's involved in inflammation and linked to diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. And the reason it was so challenging for AlphaProteo, it's the structure. It has this very flat and polar binding site, making it incredibly difficult to design a protein that sticks to it. Imagine trying to stick tape to a wet bar of soap. It's just not going to cooperate.
Okay, that's a visual I won't forget. But designing proteins for 7 out of 8 targets, including viral proteins, that's huge.
Absolutely. And it gets even more interesting. Remember how we were talking about proteins being like machines? Well, it's one thing to design a protein that just sticks to its target, but does it actually do anything? That's where the real excitement kicks in.
Simply me hanging. What did these AI-designed proteins actually do? Did they just sit there, or did they get to work?
Remember those viral proteins we talked about? Some proteins AlphaProteo designed were able to neutralize several variants of that SARS-CoV-2 virus in lab tests. They prevented them from infecting cells.
Wait, they designed proteins that could potentially block COVID?
In a petri dish, yes. This is still early-stage research. We're a long way from these being actual treatments. But the fact these AI-designed proteins could interfere with the virus's ability to infect cells, that's a huge step.
Absolutely massive. What about the human proteins they targeted? Did they see any promising activity there?
They did. They designed proteins that could inhibit VEGF signaling. It's a cellular pathway involved in cancer and other diseases.
So potentially huge implications for new cancer treatments down the line.
That's the hope. And here's another layer to all this. Remember how AlphaProteo predicts protein structures? Well, they didn't just take the AI's word for it. They used cryo-electron microscopy and X-ray crystallography to actually visualize the designed proteins bound to their targets.
So they could see with their own eyes that this AI design key was fitting into the lock perfectly.
Precisely. And those images, they confirmed AlphaProteo's predictions. It added another layer of confidence to this whole approach.
This is incredible. I'm trying to wrap my head around the sheer possibilities this unlocks.
That's just it. We're only scratching the surface of what AlphaProteo might be capable of. It's not just new drugs. We could be looking at biosensors for early disease detection, creating new materials, or even devising more sustainable manufacturing processes.
It's like we've opened a door to a whole new world of possibilities. It's almost overwhelming.
It really does feel that way. We've entered this new era of protein engineering, and the limitations, they're constantly being pushed, all thanks to AI's ability to analyze and learn from these massive data sets that would take us humans, lifetimes to process.
It's mind-boggling to think that AlphaProteo is doing in seconds what used to take scientists years of meticulous research.
It speaks to the incredible power of AI when it's applied to these big scientific challenges. And with protein design, we're talking about one of the most fundamental building blocks of biology. If we can harness this power responsibly, the potential benefits are almost limitless.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but what about the potential downsides? Because with any powerful new technology, there are always ethical considerations, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the ability to design proteins from scratch, it's like, whoa, it's powerful stuff. And with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Exactly.
So one major concern is biosecurity. What if someone uses this technology to, design harmful proteins? Like, imagine a protein engineered to be even more deadly than any known toxin.
Oh, wow. That's a chilling thought.
Yeah, it's something we have to consider. It's like, we need to make sure this technology doesn't fall into the wrong hands and that it's used for good,
Absolutely. So are there any safeguards in place to prevent that kind of misuse?
Well, the research community is very aware of these risks, and there are guidelines and regulations in place. For example, access to the AlphaProteo code and the ability to create these proteins. It's tightly controlled. And there are strict protocols for screening any designs to identify and flag anything potentially dangerous.
Okay, that's reassuring. But it seems like a constant game of cat and mouse, right?
Yeah.
As technology advances, so do the potential threats.
Yeah, that's the reality we're living in. But I have faith in the scientific community. I think we're up to that challenge. Another ethical concern is access and equity.
Oh, right. Like, will these AI-designed proteins and the therapies they lead to be available to everyone?
Exactly. Developing new drugs and treatments is expensive, and there's a risk that these breakthroughs, they could widen the gap between those who can afford them and those who can't.
It's like the age-old problem of healthcare disparities.
Exactly. So it's crucial that we have open discussions about pricing, accessibility, and distribution. We need to ensure that everyone benefits from these advancements, not just a select few.
It's a matter of social justice, really.
Absolutely.
Now, beyond those immediate concerns, are there any broader societal implications we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I think this technology really forces us to confront some fundamental questions about what it means to be human.
Oh, like what?
Well, if we could design proteins that can cure diseases, enhance our abilities, maybe even extend our lifespans, it kind of blurs the line between, what's natural and what's artificial. It's like, where do we draw the line? And who gets to decide?
Those are some big questions.
They are. But these are conversations we need to be having now, before this technology becomes even more advanced.
Because once that genie's out of the bottle,
Exactly.
it's not going back in.
Right. And I think it's important to remember that technology itself isn't inherently good or bad. It's how we choose to use it that matters.
So true. It all comes back to our values and priorities as a society.
Exactly.
Well, this has been an incredibly thought-provoking conversation.
It has, hasn't it?
But I think we've just scratched the surface here. There's still so much to explore about the potential benefits and challenges of AI-designed proteins.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see where this technology takes us in the years to come.
It really makes you think about the future we're building, and the role AI will play in all of this. It's exciting, but it's also a little daunting, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I think makes this field so captivating. It's not just about the science itself. It's about these bigger philosophical questions it raises.
Sure.
It forces us to confront what it means to be human, to understand and control the building blocks of life.
Deep stuff. But zooming back in on AlphaProteo for a sec, I'm curious about how they actually designed those binders. Did they just, tell the AI, hey, make a protein that binds to this target, or was there more to it?
Oh, there was definitely more to it.
Yeah.
The researchers gave AlphaProteo some guidance along the way. They used something called hotspot residues. Basically, these are specific amino acids on the target protein where they wanted the binder to attach.
So giving the AI a blueprint and saying, focus on these spots.
Exactly. It's like saying, we need the key to fit in the lock here, here, and here. This guidance helps AlphaProteo narrow down the options because, there is just a massive number of possible protein designs. This helps the AI focus on those designs most likely to bind in the way they want it.
That makes sense. It's kind of like giving an artist a theme or some constraints, right? It can actually
Yeah.
spark more creativity. But how does AlphaProteo know which amino acids to actually use in the binder, like to make it stick to those hotspots? It seems like there would be endless combinations.
Right. And that's where the AI's deep learning abilities are truly remarkable. Remember all that training data we talked about?
Yeah.
The protein data bank, AlphaFold, all of that. It used all of that knowledge, all those examples to learn these relationships between amino acid sequences and protein structures, and crucially, how those structures actually dictate binding interactions.
So it's like AlphaProteo has developed an intuition for what works and what doesn't, right? Based on millions of examples from nature.
Exactly. It's not just randomly throwing things together. It uses those deep learning models to predict which amino acids are most likely to create a binder that really fits perfectly.
And we've seen how accurate those predictions can be. It's kind of mind-blowing, honestly. We're at this point where AI can not only read the language of biology, but it can write new chapters.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's a real paradigm shift in biology. We're moving from simply observing and studying existing proteins to actually creating new ones, new proteins with tailored functions.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. The fundamentals of protein design, the specifics of AlphaProteo and its capabilities, the possibilities it opens up. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this deep dive?
I think the most important takeaway here is that this is truly just the beginning. AlphaProteo is undeniably a powerful new tool, but it's not a magic solution to everything. There's still a lot we need to learn about protein design, and there will be challenges along the way. Scientific challenges for sure, but also ethical ones. We have to make sure we're developing and using this technology responsibly.
So a healthy dose of cautious optimism is in order as we enter this new frontier.
Exactly. But I think it's incredibly exciting. With careful and responsible development, AI-driven protein design could revolutionize so many fields. Medicine, agriculture, material science. We could see improvements in human health, advancements in our understanding of biology. We might even be able to address some of the most pressing issues facing our planet.
It's pretty remarkable to think about. I'm feeling incredibly inspired after this deep dive, I have to say. It's a good reminder that we live in a time of incredible scientific breakthroughs, and the future is brimming with possibilities. Thank you all for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of AI-designed proteins